For most people, a cold shower lasts less than a minute, just enough time to make you gasp, tense your muscles, and wonder why anyone would willingly do this every morning, yet millions of people do. Some believe it boosts energy, others say it strengthens the immune system. Many even claim it slows aging. The internet is full of dramatic before and after stories. But there's one question that rarely gets asked. What happens when you're no longer 25? Because after the age of 50, your body is no longer the same body it was decades earlier. Your muscles change, your blood vessels change, even the way you regulate body temperature begins to change. So, does cold water still affect your body the same way? Or does aging quietly change the rules? If you've ever noticed that older adults seem to feel cold more easily, you're not imagining it. It's something scientists have observed for years. As we grow older, the body gradually becomes less efficient at regulating temperature. This isn't because the body's thermostat suddenly breaks. It's because several biological systems begin changing at the same time. Blood vessels become less flexible. Muscle mass slowly declines. The nervous system responds differently to environmental stress. Even the layer of fat beneath the skin changes over time. Each of these changes may seem small on its own, but together they alter how the body responds to both heat and cold. That's why a room that feels perfectly comfortable to a 30-year-old may feel surprisingly cold to someone in their 70s. It's also why older adults generally take longer to warm up after being exposed to cold environments. But here's where the story becomes interesting. Feeling colder doesn't necessarily mean the body stops responding. In fact, the opposite may be true. Cold still activates many of the same biological systems. The difference is that those systems are now working under different conditions. And understanding those changes begins with something most people rarely think about: muscle. When people think about muscles, they usually think about strength, lifting groceries, climbing stairs, getting out of a chair. But muscles do far more than help us move. They're one of the body's largest energy-consuming tissues. Even while you're sleeping, your muscles are constantly using energy to maintain themselves. Beginning around the age of 30, adults naturally start losing muscle mass. The process is slow enough that most people never notice it from one birthday to the next. But after the age of 50, that decline often becomes more noticeable. Researchers estimate that muscle mass can decrease by roughly 3 to 8% per decade after age 30, with the rate often accelerating later in life if people remain inactive. Scientists call this process sarcopenia. The consequences extend far beyond strength. Less muscle means the body requires slightly less energy throughout the day. The change isn't dramatic overnight, but over years and decades, it quietly reshapes the body's metabolism. This is one reason why maintaining the same body weight may become more challenging with age. Now imagine introducing cold water into that system. The moment cold reaches your skin, your body immediately starts working to preserve its core temperature. That requires energy. Where does some of that energy come from? Your muscles. Sometimes through tiny involuntary contractions, so subtle you barely notice them. Other times through more complex metabolic processes happening deep inside the body. Which brings us to another fascinating tissue that scientists didn't fully appreciate until relatively recently: brown fat. Most people think all body fat does the same thing: store excess calories. But biology is rarely that simple. Humans actually have different types of fat. The most familiar is white fat. Its primary role is storing energy for later use. Brown fat works differently. Instead of storing energy, it specializes in burning energy to produce heat. For many years, scientists believed brown fat existed only in babies. Infants need it because they can't shiver efficiently to stay warm. Then in 2009, advances in medical imaging revealed something unexpected. Healthy adults still possess brown fat, not as much as infants, but enough to matter. Most of it is located around the neck, shoulders, and upper chest. Even more surprising, cold exposure can activate it. When temperatures drop, brown fat begins consuming stored fuel to generate heat, helping the body maintain its internal temperature without relying entirely on shivering. It's an elegant survival system that has been part of human biology for thousands of generations. But here's another important detail. Brown fat activity tends to decline with age. Older adults generally have less active brown fat than younger adults, although the amount varies widely from person to person. Does that mean cold showers stop working after 50? Not necessarily. The moment cold water touches your skin, millions of tiny temperature receptors send an urgent message to your brain. The response is almost instantaneous. Your breathing becomes faster, your heart rate rises. Blood vessels near the surface of your skin narrow, helping reduce heat loss. Within seconds, your sympathetic nervous system, the network responsible for the body's fight or flight response, becomes more active. As a result, hormones such as adrenaline increase, making many people feel suddenly more awake and alert. This reaction isn't unique to cold showers. It's part of an ancient survival system that helped humans respond to environmental challenges long before modern heating, insulated clothing, or climate-controlled homes existed. In many ways, your body still reacts to cold today as if survival depends on preserving every degree of warmth. For younger adults, this response is usually brief and well tolerated, but after 50, the picture becomes more complex. Blood vessels are often less elastic than they once were. The heart may need to work harder to respond to sudden changes in circulation. The body's temperature regulation becomes less efficient. None of this means cold showers are inherently harmful. It means the same cold stimulus can place different demands on different bodies. Age doesn't eliminate adaptability, but it can change how that adaptability is expressed. This is where online discussions often drift away from science. Claims about cold showers range from boosting immunity to dramatically slowing aging. Some even describe them as a cure for fatigue or a shortcut to better health. The reality is more nuanced. Research does suggest that brief cold exposure can produce measurable physiological changes. Several studies have shown increased activity in the sympathetic nervous system. Others have found activation of brown fat, which helps generate heat by burning energy. Some research has also linked repeated cold exposure with improvements in insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism, although these findings are still being investigated and may not apply equally to everyone. There's also evidence that many people report feeling more alert, energized, or mentally refreshed after regular cold showers. One large Dutch study found that participants who ended their daily showers with cold water reported fewer sick days from work, although they did not experience fewer illnesses overall. That distinction matters. Feeling more resilient isn't the same as becoming immune to disease. Science often works in these small but important differences, and then there's the biggest claim of all. Can cold showers slow aging? At the moment, there is no strong clinical evidence showing that regular cold showers slow biological aging or extend lifespan in humans. Researchers continue exploring how cold affects inflammation, metabolism, and cellular function, but the evidence isn't strong enough to call cold showers an anti-aging therapy. This is exactly why evidence matters. The most exciting claims are often the ones that require the strongest proof. Perhaps the most important question isn't whether cold showers are beneficial, it's whether they're appropriate for everyone. For healthy adults, brief cold showers are generally well tolerated. But for some older adults, especially those with certain cardiovascular conditions, sudden cold exposure may place additional stress on the heart and blood vessels. A rapid increase in heart rate and blood pressure isn't necessarily dangerous for everyone, but it may not be appropriate for people with unstable heart disease, uncontrolled high blood pressure, or other serious medical conditions. This is why many physicians recommend starting gradually, rather than jumping into extreme cold. The goal isn't to shock the body, it's to observe how the body responds. That difference is often overlooked, because adaptation happens through consistency, not intensity. A slightly cooler shower repeated over weeks may be far more useful than forcing yourself through an ice-cold experience once. The body responds best to challenges it can successfully adapt to, not challenges that overwhelm it. And perhaps that's the most fascinating lesson hidden inside this entire story. When we began this documentary, we asked whether cold showers could help the body after 50. The answer isn't a simple yes or no. Cold water clearly triggers real biological responses. Your nervous system reacts, your circulation changes, your metabolism briefly shifts. Brown fat may become more active. Your body works to protect its core temperature. Those responses are measurable. They're real. But that's different from saying cold showers reverse aging. Current scientific evidence doesn't support that conclusion. Instead, cold showers reveal something far more interesting. They remind us that the human body never completely loses its ability to adapt. Even after 50, even after 60, many of the biological systems that helped our ancestors survive are still there, waiting, responding, adjusting. Of course, those systems don't respond exactly as they did decades earlier. Aging changes blood vessels, muscle mass, temperature regulation, recovery. The body becomes different, not broken, different. And understanding that difference changes the conversation entirely. Healthy aging isn't about pretending you're still 25. It's about understanding how your biology evolves over time and choosing habits that work with those changes rather than against them. So perhaps the internet has been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, can cold showers make you younger? Maybe we should ask, what can the way our bodies respond to cold teach us about healthy aging? Because the most remarkable discovery isn't that cold water has mysterious powers. It's that even after decades of change, the human body still possesses an extraordinary capacity to sense, respond, and adapt to the world around it. And perhaps preserving that ability to adapt is one of the most important parts of growing older well.